Ever wonder if some places are so scarred by tragedy that the echoes just never fade? Imagine standing somewhere, knowing that maybe over 100,000 souls met their end right there, their stories almost seeping from the walls. Well, tonight, we're taking you to a place like that. Welcome, seekers of the unseen. We're heading out on a journey, not just to any old spooky spots, but to some of the most paranormally active sites on Earth. These are places where folks say the veil between our world and whatever's next is incredibly thin. Now, we're not here to sensationalize. We're using proper investigative techniques to carefully document the personal stories and chilling happenings that make you wonder if these places are more than just old buildings or forgotten lands. Could they actually be gateways? Tonight, we're diving into two infamous hotspots: an island prison in Italy steeped in plague and madness, and a U.S. penitentiary that rewrote the book on punishment, leaving an almost tangible spectral energy behind. Get ready, because first up is Poveglia Island, and then we're off to Eastern State Penitentiary. The Venetian Lagoon is full of secrets, but Poveglia Island? That might just be its darkest. They call it the Island of Ghosts, and when you look at its history, a grim tale of exile, plague, and whispered madness, you start to understand why. It first pops up in records way back in 421 AD, initially as a safe haven, but that didn't last. Fast forward to 1776. For over 100 years, Poveglia became a quarantine station, a lazaretto, for ships sailing into Venice. If they even suspected plague on board, this is where you ended up. Can you imagine the sheer terror? Being ferried to this isolated island, knowing it was probably a death sentence. During plague outbreaks, countless souls were shipped here, and most never left. Some estimates, like one from National Geographic, suggest over 100,000 people died on Poveglia over time. Their bodies, often thrown into mass plague pits. Even now, some local fishermen won't go near the place, convinced it's cursed, its very soil mingled with human ash. But Poveglia's dark story doesn't stop there. In 1922, they opened a psychiatric hospital on the island. It ran until 1968, and this is where the legends really take hold. Stories of a doctor performing horrific experiments, like crude lobotomies on patients. The tale goes that the island's spirits eventually drove him mad, and he threw himself from the bell tower. Now, there isn't solid historical proof for all the gory details of his experiments or that dramatic end. Some say TV shows cooked up that part. But what we do know is that since the hospital shut down, the island's been mostly empty. The buildings are crumbling, and the air just feels heavy with its tragic past. Getting to Poveglia is tough too. Access is restricted, visits often forbidden, which only adds to its eerie mystique. So, what do? We start by digging into the island's documented history, comparing it with all the paranormal claims. We're bringing out the standard gear, EMF meters to pick up any weird electromagnetic field spikes that some link to spirits, digital voice recorders, hoping to catch EVPs, those are sounds or voices our ears don't hear at the time, and thermal cameras to spot any sudden temperature drops or strange heat signatures. As dusk creeps over the Venetian Lagoon, you can just feel the atmosphere on Poveglia change. It gets heavy. The ruined hospital, those overgrown fields where the plague pits are supposed to be, the silent church, every spot has this weight to it. Investigators often talk about an overwhelming sadness and despair. We kick off our EVP sessions near where the plague pits are said to be, asking simple, respectful questions, then just listening, leaving plenty of silence for anything to come through. The recorders are always rolling. Heading towards the decaying hospital, the EMF meters start jumping erratically in some corridors, especially near what we think were old patient rooms. We log these spikes, always comparing them to baseline readings to make sure it's not just faulty wiring. The thermal camera sweeps the dark rooms. Are those cold spots we're seeing just drafts in a falling apart building or something else? That's why careful, repeated measurements are so important. Personal experiences, they're a big part of investigating Poveglia. Our team members have reported feeling watched, hearing faint, unidentifiable sounds, whispers, maybe cries. Other visitors and paranormal groups say the same things. One of the really unsettling claims is the sound of children skipping or crying, especially near the old church. We didn't catch those specific sounds this time, but that deep sense of sorrow, undeniable. Later, when we go over the audio, there's one bit from near the hospital grounds, a faint sigh-like sound, right after a direct question. Was it just the wind, or something more? Without more to back it up, it's intriguing, but we can't say for sure. Poveglia doesn't give up its secrets easily. It just leaves you with this profound sense of its haunted history and all those stories it still holds. Poveglia definitely leaves you with a heavy feeling, doesn't it? What do you think is really going on there? Drop your theories in the comments. We'd love to hear them. And hey, if you're gripped by this journey into the unknown, give that like button a click and subscribe for more deep dives into the paranormal. All right, let's hop across the Atlantic for our next global hotspot. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, home to the truly imposing Eastern State Penitentiary. When this place opened back in 1829, it wasn't your average prison. Oh no, it was a pretty radical and controversial experiment in how to reform criminals. Its design was cutting edge for the time. Cell blocks spreading out from a central hub, perfect for surveillance and isolation. This was where the Pennsylvania system, solitary confinement, was born. Inmates were kept totally alone, even hooded when moved outside their cells. The idea was to make them reflect and feel penitent. But, as many will tell you, that kind of extreme isolation likely drove a lot of them to deep psychological distress, even madness. Eastern State saw its share of America's most notorious criminals. We're talking bank robber Willie Sutton and even Al Capone himself. He did his first prison stretch here for carrying a concealed weapon. The prison officially shut down in 1971. Now it's a museum and a National Historic Landmark. Its crumbling cell blocks and decaying guard towers pull in historians and, you guessed it, paranormal investigators like us. And the ghost stories? They've been around for ages, going all the way back to the 1940s, with guards and inmates alike talking about eerie stuff. Even today, visitors and staff report a whole laundry list of unexplained things. Shadowy figures zipping down corridors, footsteps when no one's there, cell doors creaking open or slamming shut on their own, weird whispers, chilling laughter, and sad wails. Some people even say they've been touched by unseen hands or hit by sudden, bone-chilling cold spots. A few spots inside the pen are known for being extra active. Cell block 12? That's where you hear about echoing voices and cackling. Shadowy figures are a common sight in cell block 6, and cell block 4 is notorious for ghostly faces popping up. One of the most famous legends is about Al Capone. Word is, during his stay, Capone claimed he was tormented by the ghost of James "Jimmy" Clark, one of the guys killed in the St. Valentine's Day massacre. A hit many think Capone ordered. The story goes Capone would scream at night, begging Jimmy to just leave him alone. It's a gripping tale, but like a lot of prison legends, it's tough to pin down with hard historical facts. Our game plan at Eastern State is similar. EMF readings, a lot of EVP work, thermal imaging, and always cross-referencing with historical records. This place is huge, so we have to be systematic, focusing on the known hotspots. Walking through those long, echoing cell blocks, the feeling of desolation is just overwhelming. Those tiny cells where people were kept in complete silence for years, it is like they still hold an imprint of all that suffering. In cell block 4, known for these visual claims, we set up for a long vigil. We break out the spirit box. That's a device that quickly scans radio frequencies, creating white noise. Some investigators think spirits can use that noise to form words, and during one session, through all the static, we thought we heard a few faint words that seemed to answer our questions. Things like alone and cold came through, but what they mean, or where they came from, still up for debate. Near Al Capone's cell, which, by the way, was way more furnished than the others, we ran an EVP session focused on those stories about him being haunted. We didn't catch anything specific about Jimmy, but an EMF meter we left inside his cell did show a big unexplained spike for several minutes before settling back down. And throughout our time there, several team members said they felt like they were being watched. Pretty common here. One investigator pointed out a really distinct cold spot in cell block 12, an area known for voices, even though there were no drafts to explain it. The evidence we gather at Eastern State, much like at other haunted places, is often made up of these subtle anomalies, personal feelings, and potential EVPs that you have to look at really carefully and skeptically. The prison's undeniably heavy atmosphere and its tragic past definitely feed into its chilling reputation. And honestly, the sheer number of people, visitors and staff, who've reported similar experiences over decades, that makes Eastern State a very strong contender for one of America's most haunted spots. You know, when you investigate places like Poveglia Island and Eastern State Penitentiary, places just soaked in so much human suffering and history, you always end up with more questions than answers. It's fascinating how the kinds of things people report, seeing apparitions, hearing voices, feeling strange sensations, are so similar at these types of sites all over the world. We use our EMF meters, thermal cameras, and spirit boxes trying to get some kind of objective data, but those personal experiences, the feelings of dread, sadness, or just being watched, they're still a massive, even if subjective, piece of the puzzle. So what's really going on? Is it just our minds playing tricks on us in these creepy environments? Or are we actually bumping into echoes of the past, like energies left behind by intense emotions and trauma? Our goal isn't really to prove once and for all that ghosts exist. It's more about exploring these mysteries that just won't go away, documenting the things we can't explain, and thinking about what these global hotspots might be trying to tell us. And digging into the history. That's absolutely key. Understanding the human stories behind these places is the foundation of any good paranormal investigation. So, from the plague-soaked shores of Poveglia to the lonely cells of Eastern State, there's no denying the sheer weight of history in these places. We've shared what we found using our usual techniques. Those little anomalies, the personal stories, and that chilling vibe that just hangs in the air. These spots, marked by so much tragedy and the passage of time, really do make you wonder if there's something more out there, something beyond what we normally understand. They're powerful reminders of past suffering, and they're mysteries that keep pulling us back, searching for answers in the shadows. Are they actually gateways to something else? That's the big, unsettling question that still hangs in the air. We're definitely not done exploring the world's paranormal hotspots, not by a long shot. So, where should we head next? Got any famously haunted locations you think we should check out? Let us know your suggestions in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and ding that notification bell so you won't miss our next trip into the unknown. Thanks for hanging out with us. Stay curious and maybe, just maybe, leave a light on tonight.